All right.
We're taking all the best old school wisdom and blending it with the top new school methods to bring you the optimal coaching strategies.
This is the 80-20 Baseball Podcast with Coach Bo.
Welcome, 80-20 Baseball youth coaches, 80-20 Baseball coaching community. Welcome to this week's episode as we roll into Thanksgiving. I want to wish you all a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family, and I am excited to have you here this week for our weekly episode, 80-20 Baseball, where we win with our players, with our team, and on the scoreboard by coaching the right things the right way in the right amounts. Always great to be here with you. Shorter episode today as I'm building out the 80-20 Baseball Master Course. It's an efficient way to learn all the top 80-20 baseball drills. It's going to have all the top drills: fielding, base running, throwing, hitting, bunting, and a lot more. Show you exactly how to run an optimal scrimmage. It's going to have a full dynamic warm-up and throwing routine in it that have been proven to work at all levels. It's going to have a complete pregame routine that optimizes the pregame prep. It's going to have an in-game coaching guide. The goal is to have it ready by early January, so some of these upcoming episodes might be a little bit shorter because I'm putting my time into building that up to have it ready on the 80-20 Baseball website. I'll announce when it goes live, so don't worry, I'll let you know here on the podcast. And in fact, I'm going to announce it to all of you before anybody else, and that's going to give you an opportunity to get a discounted price on that. So that'll be ready soon, and I'm very excited. I have a new platform that I'm using for it. I'm really excited. The user experience should be excellent. I'm also pondering running a coaching mastermind group that meets every couple weeks, twice a month during the season and leading up to the spring season at least. Let me know if you're interested in something like that. You can email me, coachbo@8020baseball.com. Now, speaking of improving our coaching game and learning, the ABCA convention is coming up in Nashville. This is essentially, for those of you that don't know, it's essentially like the biggest baseball coaching convention. I've been to it many times. It's hosted every year, early January. It's a really big thing, but it's not youth baseball focused. Now, there may be youth baseball minded discussions and speeches and presentations given, but overall it's for varsity, high school, college, and above. And I think part of that is because, one, it's just so many smart baseball minds that it's difficult for them to bring it to the youth baseball level. And it's not that it's necessary to make it less advanced. It's more about simplifying and prioritizing, teaching it and presenting it in a way that resonates with youth baseball coaches. But nonetheless, over the years, I've gone to this convention, love it. A lot of it's a networking thing, and there's a lot of products and booths and things like that. But if you're in the Nashville area, I think it might not be a bad idea to go check it out. So that's coming up, the American Baseball Coaches Association. Again, it's designed more for varsity coaches, high school varsity, college coaches, and most of the speakers are college or pro or high-level high school coaches. Some really excellent minds, some just amazing minds. The conduit that is necessary, I truly believe, for that coaching convention, the conduit across the board needs to be somebody who can then take it and translate it into a message for youth baseball coaches, because it's not that you're going to make it sound less smart. What you're going to do is you have to really sift through it, and you have to cut out a bunch of stuff, and you have to cut through some of these complex terminology that they try to use. It's really just jargon that's in the everyday coaching world at the college level and pro level, but it's not youth baseball coaching. Now, with that said, there is a great book that if you can't make it to that coaching convention, which most of you can't, or if you don't want to be a member of that organization, I get it. I'm a member. I really like it, but I'm coming from a different place than most of you. But I do recommend looking into reading the book that the American Baseball Coaches Association published about 20 years ago called Baseball Strategies, Your Guide to the Game Within the Game by Jack Stallings and Bob Bennett. And I've mentioned Bob Bennett on here before. He's got a great book. His message of pitching from the ground up to me is awesome. Anything coaching from the ground up with any skill, with any technique type of thing is definitely the way to go. In fact, you can tell an advanced coach, somebody who's been in the game a long time, when they're evaluating a pitching delivery, or they're evaluating a swing, or they're evaluating a base runner's field jump, the first couple steps on that, or the movement of an infielder, they're looking from the ground up. They're evaluating the feet first, moving up through the legs, the knees, the upper, the hips, and going from there. Where your less knowledgeable or less experienced coaches are going to start from the top, they're going to stop from where the hand is releasing the ball, or the hands and the bat and the shoulders, and they're going to work down. The challenge with that is the kinematic chain. Kinetic chain starts from the ground up. Nonetheless, this is a really good book that I recommend. In last week's episode, I mentioned that it had an alternative, that if you couldn't get to a conference or you can't become a member, you don't want to become a member of the coaching association, there's this baseball strategy book. Again, I'm not related to the ABCA. I'm a member, but I'm not part of it. I'm not a part of the organization. So I'm definitely not making anything off recommending this, nor do I make anything off recommending anything I've recommended to you in the last 157 episodes. So the baseball strategy is your guide to the game within the game. It's a good book. It's an alternative that I wanted to bring out to your attention. All right, part 2 of this episode, I'm going to share out in just a minute the team standing the whole game or not in the dugout, being energetic, how much energy, should they be rah-rah, should they be up against the fence, yelling, screaming. I'm going to give you my take on that in just a second, but first I want to get to the quote by the late Don Meyer, former college basketball coach. He had 923 college wins. Here's something interesting about these coaches, and I mentioned about Coach Wooden before, Coach John Wooden, and how he started. I think it was 16 years, and I dug into it. He actually coached quite a bit before he was a head coach. Essentially, even the great John Wooden, who everybody our age seems to remember for winning all the championships, really not losing many games, winning like 88 straight games and winning title after title. He coached 20 years before he won a national title, 16 as a head coach. This coach was similar. Coach Don Meyer, former college basketball coach, coached at the Division II, Division III, and NAI level. In fact, he was the winningest coach that had coached at the NC2A level up until Coach K passed him about 10 years ago. He had 923 wins, like I said, but his first 4 years of coaching, his record after 4 years, Coach Don Meyer, was 48-60. 48-60 after his first 4 years. So for every 4 games he won, he lost 5. And I like to share that out. I like to share this backstory on these coaches of how they didn't have success right away, so we can all have a clear understanding and expectations of ourselves. Now, can you go out there and win and have a successful team right away? Yes. Most importantly, we're trying to go out there and use baseball, youth baseball, as a vehicle to build up better human beings, better kids, better players, better people moving forward in a fun way, in a sports environment, which is awesome. So it's a fun way to prepare kids for life. But you can also win too at the same time. They go hand in hand. So if you win with your players, you win with your team, you win with the people, you can also win on the scoreboard. But just be patient with some of these things. It doesn't just happen right away for most coaches, even the great coaches. Some of these coaches that won more games than any other coach in college history for their sport struggled early on or didn't have success right away. But I'm not saying you can't have success right away. I think you can absolutely have success right away. But I think it's important that if you come across some bumps in the road, it's all par for the course. That's how it works for most coaches, including myself. Now, the good thing is you're here. If you're here, you're listening, you want to get better, and you're going to learn from all the experience that has come before, and we're sharing it out here. Speaking of sharing out, Coach Don Meyer's quote, this is the quote of the week, the coaching quote of the week. Quote, shout praise, whisper criticism, end quote. Shout praise, whisper criticism. I think this is a really good, simple motto to live by with your verbal feedback. Shouting praise, be loud with your praise, as quiet as you can with your criticism. Now, when it comes to hustle, when it comes to disrespect from teammate to teammate or disrespect from a teammate to a coach, when it comes to safety, disrespect, or hustle, I'm not a big fan of being quiet on those. I don't think you should get personal with your feedback or raising of your voice. It shouldn't be a personal dialogue, but I'm definitely a big fan. When it's safety, you got to be as loud as you need to be to get that safety message across right then and there. And it needs to be with emphasis. And that's why I don't think yelling at players for a lot of things is a good thing, because it dilutes a lot of the other reasons. It dilutes your yelling. It dilutes the power of your message when you do raise your voice. I know a lot of you know, you're listening to this, you're going, yes, this is true across the board with parenting and everything. We don't want to dilute our raising of our voice. We don't want to dilute that message or the impact that it can have. When we raise our voice, we want it to really be like, whoa, coach means something here. This must be important. This is a big deal to coach because he's raising his voice. That's an injury risk, a safety risk, an immediate safety risk, disrespect from teammate to teammate. That needs to be where you save your extra tone, your extra loud, firm message. You really want to send a message with that. Save that extra loudness, that oomph. Save that for when you need it and when they're not hustling, when players aren't hustling. Those are the 3 times I think you should really not whisper anything. You should be really bold with your, let's just say, non-praise feedback. But with praise, shout it out. So Coach Don Meyer Meyer said, shout praise, whisper criticism. I think this is really great. So you're shouting your praise and then you're whispering and trying to be as quiet as you can or low key as you can with your feedback when it comes to, say, a skill issue, an issue with their fielding ground balls, an issue with their swing, an issue with their pitching delivery, an issue with their running or their throwing technique or how they catch a fly ball or whatever. Try to be as low key as you can with that feedback and then shout your praise. Now, I definitely don't think you should be low key when players are not hustling and when players are disrespecting one another, bullying one another, or when there's an immediate safety risk. So I love that quote, shout praise, whisper criticism. Take that out there with you to the field and live by that. It really, in 4 words, really encapsulates a lot. So shout your praise, whisper your criticism, and how that whisper, how that low-key transfer of knowledge, transfer of coaching, the skill up, that's going to play out a little differently depending on the environment, the situation, the dynamic of how the practice is laid out and things like that. But just keep those in mind. That should be your operating system, and then how that plays out, it might look a little different. You're going to have different apps for different things, but your operating system is shout praise, whisper criticism. Speaking of shouting, part 2 of this episode, we're going to talk about players shouting out, going all rah. I got this question a while back and then I got it again via an email from some coaches. Hey, Coach Bo, what's your take on teams standing up the whole game in the dugout or yelling, and cheering really loud and really just a ton of energy from the start? And they asked me, do you think they should sit down? Should they stand up the whole game? What was my take on this? The operating system, kind of that overarching recommendation that I'd like to make is you want a team that's energetic, but not running out of steam late in the game. And if you have a doubleheader or you're playing a tournament, you have to keep that in mind. You don't want your team to be aloof, lethargic, slouching on the bench, out of it, no energy. You don't want that unless they're sick or there's some underlying circumstance for that health-wise. So you have to ask yourself, and also your team can prove it too. So you can have some parameters. Tell your team, be as energetic as you need to be. Just make sure that you're not running out of steam late in the game. And if they do run out of steam late in the game, or it's not something they can consistently do throughout the game, then you and your team need to recalibrate that and set the tone at the beginning that can be sustained. Set the energy level, the cheering, the yelling from the dugout. Now, the yelling should not be towards the other team at all. And I know some of you might disagree with me on that, but my thing is you don't yell at the other team, you don't talk to the other team, you stay with your team. You don't talk to the umpires, you stay with your team, you talk to your coaches, and that's the end of the story. Now, if your players have a friend on the other team and they've known each other since they were little, you could say it's okay for them to maybe chat with them when it's appropriate. But here's the thing, you don't want to get too gray area on this, because you might say, well, Johnny knows Joe on the other team, or Chucky knows Lenny over there, and so they grew up together and they live across the street from each other, so they talk during the game or they razz each other. Just want to make sure that you have a little uniformity with that policy, the expectation there, so just be careful with that. But when it comes to, let's just say, keeping it to our own team, I think it's important to do this: less rah and more focus, less rah and more presence. I think the players should have less rah and more observant, more learning, more in a mode of learning and observing. They should be less rah. They should be less focused on the rah and more thought on being ready and prepared for their upcoming opportunity, whether that's the pitch, to hit, to play defense, to pinch run. So to try to share it as concisely as possible with you, this is my recommendation. I would have a rule, an expectation of the team. I would review it with the team before the season or before the first couple games, lay forth the ground rules on this, on the energy level from the dugout, what the expectation is from the players in the dugout. And I would keep it to these 3 things. 1, we don't talk to the other team or the umpires. End of story. 2, we need to be less rah and more X, Y, and Z, more focused, present, observant, learning, and ready. We can be as rah as we want to be, or as you want to be, and you can share this message with your team. You can say you can be as rah as you want to be, but it needs to be something that y'all can sustain throughout the game, throughout the doubleheader or the tournament, or throughout the season. It can't be something that you just go full bore for 2 or 3, 4 innings and then it dwindles, or you go full bore and then there's a lull and then it comes back in the 7th inning when things matter. It needs to be consistent, and a big reason for that is so they don't run out of energy. They don't run out of the energy that they need to focus, to be present, to be ready, to be observant, to be learning, to make those big plays late in the game. And big plays are not just made with the legs and the arm. Big plays are made with the mind, being ready, expecting, knowing where to go with the ball, being ready to go when the ball comes to them. So they have put themselves in the opportune position to make the best play possible. And if they've gone rah all game and they focus more on the the cheering and the cheerleading aspect, and that's taken away from their mentality, their mental focus, clarity, mental strength to be a better player, to be a better teammate, then that's where you say, no, we can't do it then. We can't do that, or at least to that level of rah-rah. So simple 3-step, 3-rule, 3-item policy. No talking to the other team, the umpires. 2, as long as it doesn't take away from their preparedness, as long as it's sustainable. So as long as they're not talking to the other team or the umpire, as long as it doesn't take away from their preparedness, and as long as it's sustainable, those are your parameters. And from there, the team will be themselves. You shouldn't just tell the team they need to be this loud or do this or this and that, because it might be a different group dynamic. It might be different types of personalities blending together from last year, or different than other teams that you see in your league. So it's not apples to apples, because players are all going to be different, and the team dynamic may be different, and what they need from each other as teammates may be different. So as most of the things here at 80-20 Baseball that we talk about, set parameters so you have some freedom. The players have some freedom, but there's parameters. Can they be up, energetic during the game? Can they stand up? Sure. As long as it doesn't take away from their preparedness, as long as they're ready to go, as long as it's sustainable and they still have energy at the end of the game to be the best player they can be, then hey, let them do what they need to do. Let them do what they want to do. Let them have some fun and go from there. So I hope that gives clarity to some expectations that you should have, that you could have with your team about their dugout behavior and how they are in the dugout. Now, there's definitely different things in the dugout besides that, like organization of equipment and where coaches are going to sit and stand and things like that. But as far as the rah-rah, the energy level, sitting, standing, I wouldn't say they need to sit or stand. I would just say, hey, you can't do this, and it shouldn't take away from this, and it needs to be sustainable. Next week, I will share out a couple more tips. Speaking of dugout behavior, I'm going to share out a couple more tips for the dugout that you as coaches can set forth these expectations to make sure your dugout is supporting the team on the field, the other players on the field, supporting each other as best as possible. So next week, I'm going to share out, one of them is a big tip that happens a lot. It happens a lot at all levels of baseball, and it does cause problems, and it will cost outs. It will cause problems. It will cost runs, and this is part of the behavior from the dugout. So we're going to talk about that. I'll share that tip next week. And also, I have a gem of an audio clip on hitting swing advice from one of the top 3 hitters of all time in baseball. It's about a 1.5 minute clip, a 90-second clip. And this is something that you could use with a lot of your players so they can be better hitters. This is specific to the swing, coming from one of the top 3 hitters of all time. And I'm going to splice that in next week, and we're going to talk about it. And that's really going to help you out with some of the players, maybe half of your players, maybe more, maybe less, but it's definitely going to help you out with some of your players as you get ready for this upcoming season so they can be better hitters than they are currently. So you're going to want to hear that next week, next Tuesday when the next episode comes out. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Head over, get the drill design guide. It's free at 8020baseball.com. You can have it in seconds. It's over there. It took a lot of time. I put that together over the course of almost 3 weeks. It's ready for you. It gives you a paradigm on how to design drills. Support the podcast. We're well over 4,000 minutes of audio here. 4,000 minutes of our podcast is about 5,000 at most, because we cut out, my editor Sam and I, we cut out everything that's not optimal. We cut out everything that we don't think is going to be the best for you, and we bring it to you. We make sure that we're just giving you the cream of the top. We're skimming the cream off the top and trying to give that to you. Support the podcast at a minimum. Hey, just leave an honest review on your podcast app. Right here, just go leave an honest review, a rating on your podcast app. That helps support the podcast. Email me your success stories, Coach Bo, as in Bo Jackson, B-O, the American athlete version of Bo, not the French soap opera, B-E-A-U. Coach Bo, B-O, at 8020baseball.com. Send me your success stories. I've gotten emails from quite a few of you sharing your success stories using this. I love to hear that. Send them over. And until next week, take care of your health. Have a great Thanksgiving. Take care of your family. Take care of your close friends when they need you. And take this information and go implement it. Go apply it. Go put it into action. Until next week, everybody, adios.
This has been the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. Take it to the field.